Hi, this is Simon Hill for Digital Trends, and this is Google's new Pixel 3 smartphone. And rarely has a phone been so leaked as this one was before the launch event. And actually we probably saw a little bit more about its bigger brother, the Pixel 3 XL. One of the main criticisms it came in for was that it has a slightly dated design. Now we're glad to see that the Pixel 3 doesn't have the deep notch that the 3XL does. However, as you can see, it does still have quite big bezels. If you look a little closer here, you'll see that there's a speaker in there. There's also a speaker up here, and that's the dual camera setup, which we'll talk about later. So you've got dual front-facing speakers flanking this 5.5-inch OLED display, which is really sharp, bright, always legible in different lighting conditions, and we're really liking the display so far. If we flip over to the back, now Google's retained this kind of two-tone design, which has always been part of its Pixel range, but this time the whole back is glass. It's Gorilla Glass 5 actually, and you can see this top portion is glossy as usual. The bottom portion has this kind of special etched finish, which doesn't pick up finger smudges or fingerprints, and it feels like a soft touch finish. It's very comfortable. It's a very comfortable phone to hold one-handed and to use one-handed. You've also got your fingerprint sensor there. We've got the single lens main camera, which we'll talk about later. If we have a look on this side, you've got the mint green power button, and there's a volume rocker. The phone also comes in black, and there's a not pink version, which actually is pink, and it has an orange power button. We've got the subtle Google logo there, and then down at the bottom here, we've got the USB-C port and the SIM card tray. All you'll find up top is a microphone, and sadly there is no audio jack, although Google is decent enough to give you one of these in the box with the Pixel 3, which is a USB-C to 3.5mm audio adapter. They also supply these Pixel buds, which are actually quite good, and of course they have a USB-C plug. So we slot into the bottom of the phone, and you get one of these, which is actually just for plugging in your old phone, whatever it may be, with whichever cable, and you can copy over your contacts and bits and pieces. The last important thing that you get in the box with the Pixel 3 is a proper fast charger and a USB-C to USB-C cable, so you can charge up your phone at properly decent speeds without having to spend a lot of money on extra kit. Now, one of the reasons that Google went for this all glass back as well is that it allows the Pixel 3 to be charged wirelessly, so it supports the Qi wireless charging standard, which is a pleasing development. Now, this phone runs Android 9 Pie out of the box, obviously, with it being Google's flagship. It has a Snapdragon 845 processor inside, just like every other Android flagship of the moment, and that's backed up by just 4GB of RAM. We've seen a few people complain about that, maybe have some concerns about how well the phone's going to run with just 4GB of RAM. A lot of the top phones now are coming out with 6 or even 8GB, so you might well consider that 4GB isn't enough. However, we have to say it's extremely smooth. We haven't had any trouble with apps starting up quickly, with flicking in and out of apps. Doesn't really seem to be a big issue, but if you're a major multitasker, you might reach a stage where you're not happy with 4GB. In terms of storage, we have 64GB of storage in our review unit here. You can get a 128GB model as well. There's no room for expansion. There's no micro SD card here, I'm afraid. Now, because it's Android 9 Pie as well, you're stuck with a gesture navigation, which is slightly different, so you can click like this to go in and out of your last apps. Obviously that's the home button. You can hold that down to launch Google Assistant as well, but the standard Android navigation buttons you might be used to are no longer here. You flip up again to get into your app drawer, and that'll take a little bit of getting used to, but it works quite well. And we're fairly pleased with it. Now, if you're looking beyond the design for something that really does set Google's phones apart from the competition, then you have to look at the software and the presence of artificial intelligence inside this phone, and that's really what enables the Pixel 3 to do some things that other phones simply can't do. Now, Google Assistant's baked in. You'll be familiar with Google Assistant from other Android phones. You can launch it by squeezing the bottom of the phone here. If you just squeeze the bottom, you can see Google Assistant pop straight up. Obviously, you can set up your voice commands and everything else. And you'll know Google Assistant will answer questions for you, set reminders and other bits and pieces. But Google has added some really interesting new features which are coming to the Pixel 3 soon. And the first one of them, which we really enjoy, is screen call. So you get an incoming call, say you don't recognize the caller, you can tap the screen call button and you will get a real-time transcript of what the caller's saying. So Google Assistant will actually ask them, what's your name, why are you calling? And then you'll see them answer as they speak in real time on the screen here, and you can decide to jump in if it turns out to be a legitimate call. If it's not a legitimate call, obviously you can block that caller. And we think that's a fantastically useful feature. It's something that people are definitely going to want to use, and we've already been using it a fair bit. Another feature that's coming soon that's not here yet is duplex calls. Now, you might have seen the demo a while back, and the idea with duplex calls is that you can use Google Assistant to call a restaurant for you and make a reservation, or maybe to call up and make an appointment for a haircut or something like that. Now, it's going to be fairly limited to begin with because they're rolling it out city by city, so I think they're starting with New York and San Francisco. Hopefully some more cities will follow along soon. Now, another thing that Google talked up a little bit in the launch event, and it's become quite a kind of timely topic at the moment, is this notion of digital well-being. People are using their phones too much. Google wants to help out, help you realise how much you're using your phone and maybe help you control that and spend a little less time playing games. So you can see here a Ring breakdown of what we've been spending our time on the phone here doing. Just today, number of notifications we've had in. You can set up your Do Not Disturb. Something that's new is this flip to shh. And if you turn this on, you quite simply, if you want a bit of downtime from your phone, if your phone's going and you don't want to answer it at the moment, all you have to do is place it face down and the Pixel 3 goes into Do Not Disturb mode automatically. And that's a really nice little shortcut. Now, one of the main reasons you might consider buying one of Google's Pixel phones is because of the excellent camera performance. This is something that the Pixel phones have been known for since the first one, and the Pixel 2 is actually our reigning camera champion at the moment. Now, Google's stuck with a single 12.2 megapixel lens with an f1.8 aperture in the Pixel 3, even although competitors are adding second and even third lenses to try and boost their camera performance. Google prefers to make improvements in the software, so it employs machine learning and artificial intelligence to make your photos better. And one of the main ways it does that with HDR+ and now with this new Top Shot feature is to take a bunch of frames before and after you touch the shutter button, and then to either stitch them together to create the best image or to allow you to pick the right one. So with Top Shot, you say you're taking a group shot of a bunch of people, it will automatically pick out the one where everyone's looking at the camera, everyone's smiling, no one has their eyes closed. As you can imagine, that could be fantastically good for getting better photos, especially if you have kids, when it can be very difficult to catch the right moment. Now, one of the best things about Google's camera is the portrait mode, and if we can jump into photos to show you a couple of examples here. It takes really good portrait photos. People really want these portrait photos nowadays with this bokeh effect where the background's blurred, and Google's camera takes the shot like this, as you can see, and then it's very good at finding the edges of the subject and applying this bokeh background blur, and it almost makes it look as though it's a shot that's been taken with a proper DSLR camera. Now, there are a couple of other features that Google's looking to add into the main camera, and one of them is called Super Res Zoom, and it means that we can zoom right in and take a picture. Now, this is just a digital zoom, and usually when you zoom in with a digital zoom, the results are extremely grainy and poor quality. But Google is computationally removing the noise so that you actually get a pretty decent shot. It's not as good as optical zoom you'll find in a phone that has a second telephoto lens, but it's not a million miles away. Now the biggest change, one other thing that's come to the main camera is something called night sight, which we haven't been able to test yet, but it basically is supposed to boost the performance in low light. Although we think already it's pretty good. It's a photo I took in a dark room yesterday, and you can see it looks pretty decent. But night sight's going to boost that further, so you won't have to use your flash, because flash always ruins the light in photos. Now, the big changes that Google has made to the camera are actually around the front, and if you look closely here, you'll see that there are two lenses. There's the 8 megapixel main lens with f1.8 aperture, and then there's a second 8 megapixel wide angle lens with an f2.2 aperture. That means that portrait mode works just as well with the front facing cameras. You can get the same excellent bokeh effect, and it also allows you to use this thing called photo booth. We'll test it out just now. So if we turn photo booth on, you have to tap this button and that starts recording, and it's basically looking for a facial expression now. So if I smile, it'll automatically take a shot, or if I pull a face, it'll automatically take a shot, and that could be quite fun. The normal front-facing portrait mode is much improved over last year's Pixel 2, so that's definitely a highlight here. And the fact that you can take wide-angle selfies, so if you have a big group of friends and you want to fit everybody in, that's a real nice development. Another thing you'll notice in the camera app, which we're going to test out a little more in the coming days, is Google Lens, and this is in Android 9 Pie in general now. You can use it to copy the text from a business card or something like that. You can use it to identify products, and it can identify some other bits and pieces, including books and media. If you used it to scan a movie poster, for example, it might give you times at the local theatre, or it might give you some information about the actors that are in the movie. So that could prove pretty handy. So that's the main features of the Pixel 3. One thing we haven't talked about yet is the battery life. Now, it doesn't have a huge battery in it. We were a little bit disappointed to find it. It's only rated at 2,915 milliamp hours. But we find that it's lasted today no problem. We've been using the phone really quite heavily, and we've had to charge it every night. But it hasn't been running out early. I think it's probably going to be fairly average. It's maybe one of the weak spots of the phone. Now, another thing that may give you pause if you're thinking about buying the Pixel 3 is the price. This phone starts at $799 for the 64 gig version, and that's a full $150 more expensive than the Pixel 2 was. Now, you're getting a fair bit for the extra money. You're getting some exclusive features, although some of them we think may come to the Pixel 2 in time. You're getting this extra front-facing camera, the slightly nicer, smaller bezels, slightly nicer screen, and this nicer back design. All in all, we think it's probably worth it. Because there's no micro SD card, some people are going to want to go for the 128 gig model, and that will cost you $899. You can pre-order these phones now, and they will be released on October the 18th. And if you're looking to get it through your carrier, then it's a Verizon exclusive, I'm afraid. But if you buy directly from Google, you're going to be able to get an unlocked version of the Pixel 3 that will work on any carrier, any of the major carriers in the US. So if you want to see how some of our photos turned out and see how this camera compares with some other smartphones, then stay tuned to Digital Trends. Check out our full review of the Pixel 3 and the Pixel 3 XL, and be on the lookout for some new camera shootouts coming at you very soon.